In this video, I'm going to talk about anxiety and 3 realizations that I've had over the years in regards to anxiety. And I think if you focus on these 3 realizations and start realizing them in your life, you're going to start to see a massive shift in your relationship with anxiety. These are really crucial things to understand and realize, because without them, you can get stuck. You can fall into many traps. I remember when I used to be so paralyzed by anxiety. When it would come up, it would really take hold of you. And the first thing that you want to do when this happens involuntarily is to control it, to try to get rid of anxiety. And so the first realization is to realize that if anxiety arises, there's nothing you can do. The first one is, if anxiety arises, or if anxious energy arises, just allow it to arise and realize that there's nothing you can do. How often do we want to control anxiety when it arises? It arises, and what's the first thing we want to do? We want to push it away. We want to get rid of it. But the more we try to get rid of it, the more control it has over us. And the more we're feeding the energy. So, first thing to do is really just to give up. As crazy as it sounds, like you want to get rid of it, right? But the more you want to get rid of it, the stronger it becomes. So there's only one thing you can do, which is to literally just accept it being there. And so, in a sense, you're kind of just giving up. You're like, okay, there's nothing I can do here. I'm going to let it be there. And I'm not going to try to get rid of it. And you'll start to notice that the anxiety can lessen a little bit. Or maybe it's even the same. But the key is here that your relationship with anxiety changes. And you stop seeing it as the threat you have to remove. And so in the future, if you keep noticing this aspect and realizing this aspect every time anxiety arises, there's going to be less of a burden in the future. And less of a pressure build up as it's coming up for you in any situation. So that's the first thing, is just to notice it and to realize that there's nothing you can do. This is going to feel really paradoxical, maybe not even natural. You might be like, that's just crazy, I don't want to do that. But just become more aware of every time you become anxious, every time that anxiety energy arises, and just realize that the more you try to control it, often the worse it gets. And so every time this happens, just realize a little bit more that there's nothing you can do. And when you hone in on that realization, you'll naturally start to let go of needing to control it. And when you can let go of needing to control it, and when it happens again, when you're back in the situation, it's okay. It feels more okay. It has less of a hold over you because you aren't feeding it. You aren't giving it power. You give it power when you focus on it. You give it power when you try to control it and keep it there. or try to get rid of it. You're trying to get rid of it. The more you try to get rid of it, the more power you're giving it. As crazy as it sounds, that is the truth of it. And so this brings me to my second realization, that anxiety or any other emotion has no form or substance. This is going into the Buddhist idea of emptiness. The more you think it's real, the more you are feeding it. And by real, I'm not saying don't think it doesn't happen, but just to realize and notice that it's arising as phenomenon, as it's rising in different sensations in consciousness. Different sensations that then we are labeling as anxiety. Then we are saying, this is anxiety, or this is my anxiety, or really seeing it in a stronger, more visceral way through the labeling of the mind. And so realizing that it's just something that arises, seeing its impermanent nature, that it's something that comes and something that goes. Seeing that will start to shift that relationship you have with it. So, if it just arises, just notice that it's arising and that it has no substance. Because the more you feel like it has substance, the greater control it has over you. So realizing that its inherent nature is empty, it's without form.
In the dark of the night, I can still call on my name. With the hardest of hearts, I still feel full of pain. So I drink and I smoke and I...
The third realization is that whatever anxiety or emotion arises says nothing about the true you and your true self. It isn't a reflection of you, and any stories or narratives you make up are just that, stories and narratives. When something arises like anxiety or any emotion, it can start to feel personal for us. We can get attached to the feeling that it's about us or who we are, and we can start to make stories and narratives in regards to that. When you feel like something's personal, it has a stronger grip over you. And part of what creates the feeling that something's personal is these stories and the narratives and the conversations we have in our head or to other people about that thing. And so the third really strong tenet here is the personal aspect. Can you drop the need to make it personal? If you can see it as impersonal as it is, you start to realize the true nature of whatever is arising, whatever anxiety or emotion is arising. A +1 bonus. This is not a realization, but it is an extra you can try out when anxiety arises, which is to feel grateful for the anxiety as it arises, sending it loving energy and viewing it as something sacred, some opportunity, or teaching you something. The more grateful you can be with it, the more loving energy you are sending it. The love you give it is like giving it space for you to resolve and let go of it. Like watering a flower, you're watering yourself and nourishing yourself to grow. So that loving aspect, that's something you can do in the moment or after it arises, just to shift your relationship to becoming a more compassionate and kind person to yourself, to others. And that's going to start to shift anxiety, because anxiety is really coming from fear. And fear comes from when we're threatened. So our safety or security is threatened in some way. We feel like things are threats, maybe people are threats, if we have social anxiety because there's some lack of safety, and we want to control the situation, we want to gain people's approval, we want to ensure that we aren't hurt in some way that we might not even be conscious of. And so giving it that loving kindness in the moment can really shift anxiety. So these are 3 pillars plus 1, 3 realizations of anxiety. Give them a go. Let me know what you think. Enjoy.
When your eyes are like peonies after rain, are you waking up? No, it's never gonna feel the same. And the river runs different shades of blue. Are you waking up, falling back in love with you? With a smile on your face in the caring arms of the wind, and change.